My friends, I invite you to still your minds for just a moment, for what I am about to share is not a tale of fear, but of awakening. Life is a great spiritual game, and every move counts. There comes a time when the unseen becomes seen, when the invisible laws of the universe reveal themselves in sudden clarity. That moment is the rapture. Many pass through life as if tomorrow is promised, as if eternity is a distant thought. But eternity is here now, and the decisions we make, the words we speak, the thoughts we hold, are shaping the very hour we will face. The rapture is not simply a prophecy of some far-off event, it is a mirror to the soul, a reminder of the power of preparation, the urgency of truth, and the beauty of divine alignment. 5 minutes after the rapture, the world is not the same. In those fleeting moments, every illusion dissolves, and reality shines with a brilliance no man can deny. If you will stay with me, if you will truly listen with the ears of spirit, you will not hear fear, but freedom. You will hear not judgment, but awakening. You will discover how those 5 minutes reveal the eternal laws that have always been guiding your steps, and how you can live today with the assurance of peace, power, and divine protection. So I ask you, listen not with curiosity alone, but with the willingness to receive. For what I give you in these words is not mine, but truth that has lived since the beginning of time. And once you know it, once you embrace it, you will never see life the same again. 5 minutes after the rapture, the first sensation that falls upon the earth is silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence that comes when something has been removed, when something greater than human comprehension has taken place. It is the pause that follows a thunderclap, the stillness that descends after a storm tears through. In that silence, the ordinary sounds of life, the laughter of a child, the conversation of neighbors, the hum of traffic, seem suddenly out of place. The world has shifted, and the soul feels it before the mind has even begun to grasp it. In that very moment, the heart trembles, not because of noise, but because of absence. Those who remain are struck with a strange awareness that something beyond time has brushed against the earth and left its mark. It is the kind of awareness that pierces deeper than the intellect, something that reverberates through the spirit. The shock is not only in what has happened, but in the realization that it was foretold, that signs were whispered through scripture, through conscience, through countless moments where truth reached out, but was turned away. Confusion sweeps across faces, yet underneath confusion is fear, and beneath fear is recognition. People look for answers in the eyes of others, hoping someone will explain, hoping someone will soothe. Yet no words can soften the blow of this awakening, for the event itself is explanation enough. The silence is filled with questions unspoken, questions that pierce like arrows. Why am I still here? What does this mean? Could it be true? The questions are heavy, and no one has the power to answer them fully. And yet, beyond the shock, there is a sacred truth revealed. The sudden stillness is not an accident, it is a divine unveiling. It is the moment when heaven has moved, and earth is left to feel the weight of its absence. This silence is a teacher. It teaches that no matter how loud the world's distractions may be, truth arrives like a whisper and transforms all things. The silence teaches that what is unseen holds more power than what is seen, and in those few minutes, every soul knows it instinctively. For those who are sensitive, the air itself feels different. It is as if the invisible fabric of life has been torn, and what remains is a trembling void that cannot be ignored. Hearts pound faster, not because of what they hear, but because of what they feel. The world is suddenly lighter in some ways, but heavier in others. The absence of loved ones becomes a presence stronger than their company ever was. The absence of certainty becomes a weight heavier than any burden of daily life. This moment is not simply about loss, it is about awakening. For the soul that has slumbered, it is a jolt of electricity. For the mind that has denied, it is undeniable. For the heart that has resisted, it is confrontation. The silence presses upon every being with a single truth. Something greater has moved, and nothing will be the same. And what happens in that silence is not uniform. To some, it feels like terror, the collapse of everything they relied upon. To others, it feels like the stirring of conscience, as if a door has been left ajar and light is streaming in. And for a few, even in that silence, there is the echo of peace, because their spirit had already prepared, already aligned, already trusted the unseen hand that moves the universe. Think of a room where the music has suddenly stopped. At first, the ears strain, waiting for the melody to return, but all that comes is the beating of the heart. That is the world in those first minutes after the rapture, the sudden pause, the listening, the searching. But unlike music that may resume, this silence holds no promise of returning to the way things were. It is the final chord struck by eternity, and it reverberates through the earth. Those who mocked now remember. Those who doubted now question. Those who delayed now realize that time does not wait, and in that silence, regret becomes a loud cry in the spirit, even when lips cannot form the words. For there is no undoing, no bargaining, no pleading that can alter what has been divinely decreed. The silence speaks louder than thunder. Choices mattered, faith mattered, truth mattered. The shock of this moment is not meant to destroy, but to awaken. It is the kind of shock that breaks illusions, the kind that reveals how fragile the structures of human pride really are. Banks, governments, armies, none of these can command the silence away. Science cannot explain it, power cannot deny it, wealth cannot buy comfort in it. The silence humbles the mighty and brings low the proud, reminding the world that there are laws higher than man's laws, powers greater than man's strength, and truths deeper than man's wisdom. And yet, even in this unsettling stillness, there is a mercy hidden. For silence is also space. Space to reflect, space to awaken, space to choose differently while there is yet a chance. It is not a silence of abandonment, but a silence of confrontation. A pause that invites the soul to decide what it will do with what it now knows. The stillness after the rapture is not only terror, it is also invitation. Invitation to recognize what has been denied, to seek what has been overlooked, to call upon what was once dismissed. It is in these first 5 minutes that eternity feels closer than breath, that the invisible feels more real than the visible. And it is here that the soul must decide, will it harden in fear or will it soften in humility? Will it cling to pride or will it bow to truth? The silence is the beginning of that choice, and how one responds to it shapes everything that follows. The sudden silence and shock of the rapture is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the moment that divides illusion from reality, shadow from substance, temporary from eternal. And it is in that silence that the voice of truth, though unspoken, speaks the loudest. Be ready, for the time is always now. 5 minutes after the rapture, truth awakens in a way no one can escape. In those moments, all the arguments, the clever denials, the mocking tones that once dismissed the spiritual as fantasy dissolve like mist in the morning sun. Reality breaks through with such force that no reasoning can stand against it. The veil that once covered eyes and ears is torn away, and what was hidden becomes undeniable. There is no preacher to persuade, no book to explain, no gentle whisper of conscience left to nudge, because truth itself is standing in plain sight, undeniable and unshakable. It is a strange kind of awakening, because it does not arrive with the softness of dawn, but with the shock of lightning. Memories begin to flood the heart like a rushing tide. Every sermon that was brushed off, every friend's warning that was laughed at, every stirring of the soul that was silenced in favor of comfort, all of them return at once. The words once ignored now feel alive, echoing in the mind with a weight that cannot be silenced. And for many, the realization comes with a painful clarity. This was not superstition. This was not imagination. This was not a story told to frighten children. This was truth, and truth has now revealed itself in full power. The awakening strikes deep, not only in the mind but in the spirit. Those who once claimed there was no higher law feel it pressing against their hearts like a mountain they cannot move. Those who lived as if there were always tomorrow feel time slipping from their grasp like sand through open fingers. The excuses, the distractions, the constant noise of the world that kept the spirit asleep, all of it falls silent. In that silence, truth stands tall, and there is no turning away. Some will remember the countless opportunities they had to align themselves with the divine. They will remember how often they felt that inner pull, how often life seemed to send them signs, how often their heart whispered that there was more to life than what could be seen and touched. They will remember the feeling of being at a crossroads, of hearing the call, of knowing deep down that a choice was required. And they will know, in that very moment, that the choice they made was not without consequence. This realization is not gentle. It is piercing, but it is also the greatest teacher. The awakening of truth carries with it a kind of light, a light so radiant that it exposes everything hidden in the shadows of the soul. Motivations are revealed. Secrets are unveiled. The masks people wore, the appearances they kept, the roles they played, none of these can survive the clarity of that light. The awakening is not just about the event itself, it is about what it reveals in the heart of each person. There is no escape from self-recognition, and no one can pretend not to know. And yet, within this awakening, there is a strange mercy, for the very realization that pierces so deeply is also a reminder that truth was always available. It had always been reaching, always been speaking, always been waiting. The rapture does not invent truth, it reveals what has always been present. It is like a curtain pulled back to show the stage that had been there all along. For some, this will be a crushing realization, for they will see how many times they turned away. But for others, even those who doubted until the last moment, it can still be a doorway to humility, a chance to finally acknowledge what was denied. This awakening is a leveling force. The educated cannot hide behind knowledge, the wealthy cannot shield themselves with possessions, the powerful cannot command respect from it. The truth that awakens after the rapture treats all souls equally. It does not matter if a person was admired or forgotten, rich or poor, strong or weak, every heart feels the same unveiling. In that moment, the titles and statuses of the world crumble, and the only thing that remains is the soul's relationship to truth. The most striking aspect of this realization is how clear it suddenly becomes. The doubts that once seemed so convincing, the questions that seemed so complicated, the philosophies that made everything feel uncertain, all of them vanish in the face of the living truth. It is no longer about debate. It is no longer about perspective. The awakening is absolute. People may weep, they may fall to their knees, they may scream in anguish or stand in stunned silence, but deep within, they all know. There is no more wondering, no more speculating. The truth has revealed itself beyond denial. This clarity is not only external but deeply personal. Each person sees not only the reality of what has taken place, but also the reality of their own soul. They see the choices they made, the paths they followed, the things they gave their devotion to. And this vision is sharper than any mirror could give. It does not flatter, it does not exaggerate, it does not distort. It shows plainly what is, and that plainness is what makes it undeniable. It is both the most terrifying and the most liberating sight a soul can face. For some, this awakening will bring regret so heavy, it feels like chains around the heart. They will think of the times they could have lived differently, spoken differently, loved differently, chosen differently. They will think of how small their excuses were compared to the greatness of what was at stake. They will know that they traded eternal treasures for temporary comforts, and in that realization lies a sorrow deeper than words can describe. But for others, this same awakening will bring a deep and sudden peace. For though the event is overwhelming, their soul recognizes that it is aligned with what is happening. They will feel that the truth that now shines was the truth they had already embraced, and though the world shakes, they stand firm. Their peace does not come from ignorance but from alignment, and that peace shines like a light in the midst of confusion. The awakening of truth after the rapture is both universal and personal, both crushing and illuminating. It strips away every illusion and leaves nothing but reality. And though it arrives with shock, it carries within it the greatest gift any soul could ever receive, the undeniable certainty that truth is not an idea, but a living force. And in those minutes, every soul knows the time to awaken is not tomorrow, but now. In those minutes after the rapture, the weight of choices becomes inescapable. The decisions made in the quiet corners of life, the words spoken when no one was listening, the beliefs clung to or cast aside, all of them rise to the surface like stones in water. There is no hiding from them, no rewriting them, no pretending they were not made. The law of cause and effect, which always moves unseen, suddenly makes itself visible. Every action, every thought, every moment of surrender or resistance is revealed, and each soul feels the harvest of what it has sown. It is not punishment in the way the human mind imagines, it is consequence pure and undeniable. The choices that seemed so small, so trivial in the moment, now stand tall and unmovable. A word of kindness withheld, a truth ignored, a path rejected, a love refused. These are no longer just passing moments, but turning points, and the soul feels the weight of what each one meant. Just as a seed produces only after its own kind, the choices of life bear fruit, whether bitter or sweet. For those who lived with trust in the unseen, with faith in what they could not always explain, this moment is not terror but confirmation. Their choices, often mocked or misunderstood, suddenly shine with eternal meaning. What once seemed foolish to the world now stands as wisdom beyond price. Their lives may not have been perfect, but their direction was true, and that direction now reveals its reward in peace. Their faith was not wasted, their sacrifices were not forgotten, and their steadfastness was not in vain. But for others, the weight of their choices presses down with crushing force. The times they dismissed the voice of conscience, the hours they invested in chasing what fades, the devotion they gave to shadows rather than light, these are no longer abstract regrets. They become living realities, a mirror held up to the soul. The mind recalls every chance to change, every moment when a different path could have been chosen, every time the door of grace stood open and was passed by. The awareness is sharp and unrelenting. There is no excuse to cover it, no distraction to drown it out. This is the essence of divine law, that what one sows, one must also reap, and in that revelation, the soul sees the justice that underlies all things. The universe is not cruel, but it is exact. It gives back what has been given, it multiplies what has been planted, it reflects what has been poured into it. This recognition is both terrifying and liberating, for it means that nothing is random, nothing is wasted, and nothing is without meaning. Every moment mattered, every word mattered, every choice mattered. There are those who will fall to their knees in that moment, not because they are forced, but because the reality of what they have done and left undone becomes undeniable. They will see that their power was not in grand gestures, but in the small, daily choices that seemed so ordinary at the time. They will see that the moments when they could have chosen love, but chose indifference, when they could have chosen humility but chose pride, when they could have chosen faith but chose doubt. These were the moments that built the path they now stand upon. And there will be others who, even in the weight of consequence, begin to recognize mercy. For the very fact that they feel this awakening, that they sense the gravity of their choices, is itself a gift. It is the chance to understand what they once ignored, the chance to awaken even in the aftermath. Though regret is heavy, it is also a teacher. Though sorrow cuts deep, it can soften the hardest heart. The recognition of consequence is painful, but it also carries within it the possibility of transformation, if only one will allow it. The weight of choices also reveals how deceptive the world can be. So many pursued what seemed urgent, wealth, position, applause, pleasure, and neglected what was truly eternal. Now, standing in the aftermath, they see that the treasures they chased have no power, no comfort, no meaning in the face of truth. The house built on sand has collapsed, and only what was built on the rock of spirit remains. This realization is bitter for some, but it is also clarifying, for it shows, without a shadow of doubt, what truly holds value. The beauty of this law of consequence is that it is impartial. It does not favor one person over another. It does not bend for power or privilege. The mighty and the humble alike face the harvest of their choices. The one who lived with sincerity, but was overlooked by the world, finds themselves rich in peace, while the one who gained everything the world could offer, but neglected the soul finds themselves poor beyond words. The scales of eternity cannot be bribed or manipulated. They reflect only truth. And in that moment, the soul realizes that it was never about perfection. It was never about flawless living or never stumbling. It was always about alignment, about choosing to turn toward truth even when stumbling, about seeking the light even when shadows pressed close. The weight of choices does not crush those who sought sincerely, for their heart was pointed in the right direction. But it does crush those who lived in denial, because their heart refused what it always knew was true. This recognition is sobering, but it is also empowering for those who still draw breath, for it declares that every moment carries within it the seed of eternity. It means that no choice is insignificant, no act of faith too small, no turning of the heart too late, until the moment comes when time itself closes the door. 5 minutes after the rapture, that door is closed, and the weight of choices stands revealed. But before that moment, life itself is the gift of chance, the sacred opportunity to choose differently, to sow better seed, to walk in truth. The law of choice is not cruelty, it is love in its highest form. For love demands freedom, and freedom requires responsibility. To grant the gift of choice is to honor the soul, but to honor the soul also means allowing it to experience the fruit of its decisions. This is the balance of the universe, and it is perfect. And so, in those minutes after the rapture, the weight of choices presses upon every heart, revealing with piercing clarity the eternal truth, that life was always more than flesh and bone, always more than passing days and fleeting pursuits. It was always a sacred journey, and every step along the way was shaping eternity. And the soul cannot escape the final realization. The harvest of life is nothing more and nothing less than the choices made. 5 minutes after the rapture, when silence has shaken the heart and truth has torn through every illusion, when the weight of choices has revealed itself in a way no soul can deny, something else rises within the spirit, urgency. It is as if time itself, once taken for granted, suddenly stands still only to declare how precious it truly is. No longer does tomorrow feel like a guarantee, no longer does someday hold its comfort. The moment reveals what has always been true, though many refuse to see it. That life is fragile, that every breath is a gift, and that the call to transformation is not for later, but for now. In that realization, the soul awakens to the immeasurable value of each moment. A heartbeat, a thought, a single choice becomes magnified with eternal meaning. Those who once drifted in complacency now feel the sting of urgency pressing upon them. It is no longer enough to acknowledge truth with the lips while living in denial with the heart. It is no longer enough to assume there will always be another chance, another season, another day to begin walking in alignment with divine law. The urgency makes it clear. The only time we are truly given is this moment, and how we use it determines everything. For many, this realization floods them with regret, but regret is not the only fruit it bears. For even in the shadow of missed chances, the soul recognizes possibility. The very awareness of urgency opens the door to change. To live as though time is infinite is to squander it. To live as though time is sacred is to awaken to purpose. The rapture, in its suddenness, shakes every heart to see that purpose cannot be postponed. It must be lived now, in the decisions of today, in the love we choose to give, in the truth we choose to follow, in the faith we choose to embrace. And this urgency is not born of fear, though fear may accompany it. It is born of clarity. When illusions fall away, when distractions no longer hold sway, the soul sees what matters. It sees that all the striving for status, for possessions, for fleeting pleasures pales in comparison to the eternal treasures of love, faith, humility, and truth. The urgency is not about panic, but about alignment. Choosing to live fully awake, choosing to cast aside the shadows of indifference, and to step boldly into the light that has always been calling. It is in this urgency that transformation becomes possible. The heart that once felt powerless realizes it is not bound by the past, for the present moment still offers a chance to choose differently. Even in the aftermath of rapture, the soul that humbles itself can still find a way to begin anew, to surrender pride, to open its hands and release what it clung to so tightly. Transformation is not about what has been lost, but about what can still be embraced. It is the courage to let go of false securities and to stand upon the unshakable foundation of eternal truth. There is a strange beauty in urgency. It strips away the unnecessary, leaving only what is essential. It forces the soul to ask the questions it once avoided. What am I truly living for? What have I given my heart to? What will remain when everything else falls away? In answering these questions, the heart finds direction. It no longer wishes to waste time on empty pursuits. It longs for substance, for depth, for meaning that endures beyond the grave. Urgency becomes not a burden, but a compass, pointing the way toward life that is real and abundant. This sense of urgency transforms relationships as well. The words left unspoken, the forgiveness withheld, the love never expressed. These now weigh heavily. The soul feels the ache of opportunities missed, but it also feels the push to redeem what remains. The urgency calls forth courage, the courage to heal broken bonds, to extend mercy, to pour out love without delay. No longer is there time for pride or stubbornness. No longer is there time for holding grudges. The urgency shows that love is the only currency that endures, and every chance to give it is more valuable than gold. It also transforms how one views struggle. Once, difficulties were seen as obstacles, something to resist or complain about. But in the light of urgency, struggles are seen as teachers, as opportunities to grow in strength, in faith, in patience. The urgency makes it clear that every challenge holds within it the seed of transformation, and to waste time resenting it is to miss its blessing. Trials are not meaningless. They are the fire that refines, the storm that shapes, the pressure that reveals what is true. The urgency that comes after the rapture is not meant only for those left in its aftermath. It is a message that reverberates for all who still draw breath. For the truth is, we are never promised another moment. Every day is a fragile gift, every choice a sacred opportunity. To wait for tomorrow is to gamble with eternity. The urgency whispers that the time to live fully is now, the time to surrender is now, the time to align with truth is now. There is no wisdom in delay, only loss. And yet, urgency should not be mistaken for despair. It is a call, not a condemnation. It is the voice of truth saying, wake up. Life is precious. Do not waste it. It is a fire that burns away distraction, a light that exposes what matters most. When embraced, urgency does not crush the soul, it liberates it. It frees us from the chains of procrastination, from the illusions of endless time, from the false comfort of tomorrow. It teaches us to live awake, to live with intention, to live with the awareness that eternity is pressing upon every breath. In those minutes after the rapture, urgency becomes undeniable. It beats in the heart, it echoes in the mind. It fills the air like a drum that will not be silenced. It calls each soul to transformation, to cast aside what is temporary, and to embrace what is eternal. And though it comes with shock, it also comes with hope, for the very fact that urgency is felt means that life still offers a chance to change. The rapture may come suddenly, but the lesson it leaves is timeless. Every moment is sacred, and every breath is a gift. The only true time we ever hold is now, and what we choose to do with it shapes eternity. And so, the call is clear: live awake, live aligned, live transformed, for the time is always now.